I look a sight. I look an absolute sight. You, however, look absolutely exquisite, and I
Thank
am
you. I just,
envious of your eternal youth.
hey, stay with it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of Catt Chatt. My name is Tom Catt, and I am joined by the love of my life, someone I have a great deal of esteem for, someone who I've worked with, who I've played with, who I've sang with, danced with, laughed with, cried with, my darling friend, Tommy Ranieri.
Hey, thanks for having
Welcome.
me, Tom Catt.
I am very, very excited to have you on the show today. This episode I've been wanting to do for a little bit, and I'm very thankful that I'm doing it. I'm doing it with you. So to those unawares, Tommy is a local director on Long Island. He has done many a production through Smithtown Performing Arts Center, through Creative Ministries. What other theaters have you? I know you've worked. I know you have worked at plenty. I don't know. I also know that you've worked off Broadway as well.
Yeah, what's the best way to go about this? So I
Gas
guess
yourself up, please, as much as possible.
yeah, so I received my BFA in directing from NYU Tisch through Playwrights Horizons for drama directing in New York. I got that 2 years ago. But I guess I started directing in 2014. I was working for a small company that I don't know if it exists anymore. It was called CK Productions. I directed production of Godspell, which is one of my favorite musicals. Easy to do on a low budget that you hang out with your friends. Literally directed it in the basement of this house that I am in right now. And then from then on, I went to Marist College for 2 years, where I was a communications major specializing in PR. I went to college for that because I wanted to run a famous person's social media account. I thought that would be really cool, and I thought
that sounds too on brand for you, my love.
Yeah, I was like a big Twitter kid in early college and late high school. I don't do it anymore. It's hard to keep up. Like if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Let me tell you something. When it comes to maintaining social media, even for some schlubs like us, it's a challenge.
Oh my gosh, like you're your own entire PR team, and it's let alone like updating your websites and even posting on social media so to like stay relevant. It's like insane, which is why people hire people to do that. So I thought I was going to do that for 2 years, and then I decided I didn't want to anymore. I found that I was doing so much for the theater club there. I had they would do 8 shows a year, and I was working on 7 of them, and I was like, I'm spending more time on this in my classes. And so I remember what year was it? I guess it was 2016. And I auditioned on the day of the Bernie Sanders rally that was at Marist College. They canceled all the classes. So I went to New York City and I auditioned for NYU. And I was the one transfer that got into their directing program. I was one of 8 in my program. And I went there for 3 years and I directed a bunch of stuff. A lot of it was new work and devised work, which is sort of where my head is now.
Yeah.
I did that. And then for my senior year, I directed a new Carol Churchill play about death called Here We Go, which had like about 45 minutes of straight silence of repeating a person with hospice care over and over and over again, which was really hard. And then I did my rendition of Pippin my senior year, which was super, super important to me. And it was, based in flesh and skin and choreography. Then I graduated, and I was on a contract over at Smithtown Center of the Performing Arts for a year, where I got to direct a lot of kid shows, a lot of main stage shows, which was really fun. And I'm super grateful for that opportunity. I was also, right before the pandemic, I was directing over at the Argyle Theater in Babylon.
That's right. I remember us discussing that.
Yeah, which was really cool. I mean, I love them over there. And I mean, Evan Pappas is a dream artistic director. So I was working there, and then the pandemic hit. Oh, but I guess other places I work, I worked for Carriage House. I directed Yen by Anna Jordan for them. They were fabulous. Theater Out of Bounds, which is now Out of Bounds Productions, with Long Island Theater Collective. I did Hedwig and the Angry Inch there.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. I think that was the crowning achievement for you. You did a fabulous job with that production.
Thank you. That was one of my favorite shows I ever did. Yeah, and I've done stuff here and there, and then the pandemic hit, and I was like,
that brings us to the topic at hand. So now that we have a bit of backstory for you and on you, how have you been doing with the pandemic?
I mean,
personally, we'll go personally before we do
personally. Business. I mean, it was, as someone who knows me intimately, one thing that is a quality about me that I've been working on for the past couple of years is that when I go, I'm keep moving and I'm doing a million things. And it forced me to stop. And that was really, really tricky for me initially. And what was really nice was I was like, all right, I'm going to sleep. I'm just going to like sleep for 14 hours a day for like 3 days.
That's the idea. That is the idea.
Yeah. And then I woke up on the 4th day and I was like, I am so bored. So I did a talk show for 12 weeks, which was a lot of fun because I learned how to video edit because I hadn't done that in a couple of years.
Yeah, on this show we don't do editing. It's all raw and uncut, darling.
Well, I love StreamYard. I think StreamYard's like exactly what
you have no idea. I am so thankful that StreamYard exists. As a matter of fact, when we were doing Mod Live, I was like, it's either going to be on StreamYard or it's going to be on Zoom.
And you
they've been a blessing during this whole operation.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I'm hearing I have 2 dogs downstairs who are just like,
I hear it because it's not coming from there are no dogs down here.
I have like a 14-year-old puggle named Casey, and I have a 6-month-old Tibetan terrier named Luna, and the 2 of them just circle each other like the yin yang symbol up each other's assholes the whole day.
I remember you posted pictures of both of them, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, they're so cute. Yeah. No, we just got my dog in June, which was nice. What was I saying? Yeah, I got up on the 4th day and I was like, I got to do something. I ran the talk show, but what was cool about it was that when I was first going for communications, I had to learn the Adobe suite. I had to learn how to video edit. And then I like picked up video editing software and I was like, I haven't touched this in 4 years.
Yeah.
Which was really cool that I like learned how to do that again. And I like got that skill, which was fun. And I like did a little bit of writing, and I had like gone to school essentially for new work. I was doing new work all the time, and I was like, I want to write. Yeah. And so I was like, but I didn't know what story I want to tell, which was like a hard thing in the beginning of the pandemic. So the first thing was,
truth be told, if there's one thing I've learned about you, it's that you are a very good storyteller. You build a lot.
Yeah, it's what's I love, like, I could be with somebody and talk about anything, but it's like, well, in this current moment, in this space, in this time, knowing my identity, I'm a straight cis white guy in my 20s who comes from a middle class family. What stories can I tell?
What stories can you tell that haven't already been told?
That haven't already been told, and how can I make space for the right stories to be told with my privilege? Which has been the big thing. It's not like, it's not like I'm just doing Arthur Miller white brand theater for the rest of my life. because God, you could only kill the salesman so many ways. But that doesn't mean that I could do informed, racially diverse, identity diverse art. It's just I have to surround myself with the right collaborators who have those experiences.
I mean, giving yourself a diverse team is usually part and parcel of the game, really.
Well, you should.
That's commonplace. There's a very good friend of mine who there's a very good friend of mine. I won't name names because I don't want to incriminate him. But he worked for a local theater in Virginia, and the team is made up of predominantly straight cis white men or gay cis white men, and he's the diversity card. And he's had to point that out to them a number of times. And it's like, I'm not going to get you butts in the seats. I'm not going to get you an audience just by being go out into the world, go out into the neighborhoods and like advertise yourself to people, advertise yourself to these diverse communities. They're out there. They're willing to work. They're willing to put in the effort to make live theater.
Exactly. It's so, it's like great that we have that opportunity right now, but it's so frustrating that people just stay complacent because something is there and people are in front of them and it's normal.
But there's a reason it's complacent. The reason it's complacent is because they're the ones that are giving the money. The people that make it complacent are the ones that pay the big bucks.
Sure.
And that's that at least that's in my own experiences. I don't know if it's the same in your experiences.
Yeah, I mean, you see that on Big Broadway, right? Like you have the Scott Rudins of the world who run the place, but it's no excuse on the community regional theater level. If you're not paying somebody a weekly salary, you can have the most diverse team ever because everybody is doing it as a hobby on that level. That is what is frustrating to me. And I see that especially in the places that we live on Long Island and across the East Coast. Except for like
it is very unfortunate that specific type of theater is the go-to when there is so many other things that can be done.
Yeah, and and then you feel like there are places, there are theaters that do year-round theater, and they're like, all right, we're all gonna hop on a phone call with each other, and we have to plan what our token diverse show of the season around each other because they don't want to do the work to find the people to get them there to make it happen. It's just have the same bounce around. It's unfortunate. And like you said, you have a friend who is on the production team end. You don't see correct me if I'm wrong. You don't see of the about the 35 non-for-profit theater organizations that exist on Long Island. There's not one that is that heads who is a person of color.
It's true. It is painfully, poignantly true that is the reality. That is the entire reality of the situation. When it comes to diversification, it is very challenging, specifically for Long Island. I mean, and you know what? Forget that. Seemingly so on the East Coast itself.
On the East Coast in general.
It's unfortunate. And I have had conversations with many a diverse actor. I've had many conversations with Black actors, with gay actors, Latino actors, and the message is clear. Like, they want to perform, but there are theaters that are not putting on the shows for them. So what do you do?
Well, there's a couple things that you do. I think that there are opportunities for them right now, but it's just to play like caricatures of their identity. Just because your theater puts on Hairspray and puts on Memphis doesn't mean that you're actually telling the Black story or that you're telling diversified stories. Just because you're like, oh, we're going to do there's so many more opportunities.
There was another friend of mine, same friend as a matter of fact, who was trying to pitch the idea of doing a Native American version of a classic Broadway show.
Sure.
And I was like, that is brilliant. That is absolutely genius. Tell the story through a different lens.
Yeah,
the problem is in certain areas, it's a hard sell.
Yeah, it's funny because I was having a conversation about the Native American experience in theater the other day. You can tell a golden, because everyone's like, well, it was always done this way, so it has to stay that way. And it's not like we don't want to radically change it and make it crazy. And there's a middle line.
Yeah.
It goes down to, what is the story you're trying to tell? And the text you have in front of you actually tell that story.
Yeah.
You could do a production of Annie Get Your Gun, right? And if Annie Oakley is played by a Native American woman and they're going crazy about her being a gunslinger, that is a very different story.
Very much so.
White woman. And it goes down to, what story are you trying to tell there? But you know, if you're doing, you know, anything goes, right? And your Hope Harcourt is being played by a person of color,
Yep.
you would have to really, really work hard to make that make sense in the lens. While also doable, it's like totally, totally in the structure. It's because if you're just like, I'm throwing somebody like this, you know, I'm throwing Kiki Palmer to play this role, it's just organization. You know, it's so funny. I don't know if you know he's an actor from Nassau County who I've worked with a bit. Jalil Burke posted the status on Facebook the other day.
I am familiar with Jalil Burke. Yes,
Jalil's the best. Like one of the most lovely people. He had said, I would love to do a production of Chorus Line with an entirely POC cast. And I said to myself, you know, everyone's like, that would be amazing to see these types of people, you know, tell their stories and it wouldn't feel as whiny. And I had said to myself, I was like, that show takes place in 1975 and they're auditioning for a Broadway chorus.
Yep.
Now, if you're doing a Broadway chorus in the 1970s, you're usually having at most 10 male identifying people and 10 female identifying people, which, you know, is the way it was going in those big Broadway courses back then.
Yep.
And you're going to have just one black couple. If you're doing a pressure and everybody's fighting for it and telling those stories, you don't need to change anything.
It changes. I mean, it changes the narrative slightly.
Oh, no. Yeah. No, but you don't need to change any of the lines.
No, you don't have to change any of the lines. Absolutely not.
You know, when Richie Walters walks out and he says, you know, I was born under a full moon in Herculaneum, Missouri, and I'm black. He's the only person in the room that is going to be like, hey, are we going to talk about how this is the room that we're in right now? Look, that would be insanely different.
Yeah.
And when you do a chorus line traditionally, when the only 4 people of color on the line are Diana Morales, are Paul San Marco, and Connie Wong, alongside Richie Walters, which is crazy. You know, just like food for thought about that. But yeah, where are we going?
I mean, listen, the episode can go any which way. I love talking about the diversity in theater because I feel there needs to be more of it.
Yeah.
But you know, we could certainly move on from the topic of diversity because it is a focus. It is something that we can obviously focus on.
Well, and always be in the room.
That's exactly what it is.
I mean, I'd love to tell you about. I could tell you about what I'm working on right now.
I would love to hear that. I want to hear what you are working on, how you have made, basically how you have made COVID your bitch during this entire situation.
Some may say. So this fall, I did a full production of Sky Pony's The Wildness, which is written by Kyle Jarrow he wrote the book for SpongeBob, and Lauren Worsham, who was the original Phoebe and Gentleman's Guide on Broadway. Kyle had worked on the SpongeBob musical, which my design class, my junior year at college, audited their tech, which was great. So, you know, I got to like meet Kyle through that. And then, you know, I'd gotten his email. Another student had put on The Wildness at my school. I was like, wait, I love this show. It's like very much my style. And I was trying to find, you know, I wanted to do an outdoor production of something because open air theater was a doable thing. You know, you had Berkshire Theater Group, which was in the Times twice, actually, in July and August, who were the only, you know, equity approved musical running in the United States, which I was lucky enough to see. You know, you only had 40 people at the performance in a 9,000 square foot tent wearing masks at $100 a ticket. Yeah. But it was so wild and amazing to be like, well, theater can happen under a tent. And I was like, we have 35 organizations on the island. Why is nobody doing this? So I just did it myself.
I think a lot of it doing some stuff. I do think a lot of it is fear-based. I think it is fear-based. I think it's also that there's an inherent fear when it comes to the idea of performing during a pandemic. I mean, granted, yes, some of the greatest stories ever told were created during natural disasters. But I feel like the average person does not want to put an actor at risk, except maybe another actor.
Well, that's funny. Well, I mean, it really comes down to protocol, right? Because there were guidelines made by the CDC for performance that you could follow. You know, we were testing our actors on PCRs weekly throughout the process. We were masked throughout the entire process up until Tech Week when we were under the tent. We were taking temperatures every single day. We were like quarantining and containing people. You know, I wasn't working at that point. The only people I was seeing was my family and the people who were working on the show. You know, we were wiping down seats. We were spacing out seats. It was an open air production. You know, there was so much, you know, you had like, you know, kids walking around with hand sanitizer bottles, walking up to people who were like, oh, I have this. You have digital programs. You know, and you know, the big thing is that, you know, you distance the audience from the stage, because the big thing is, you know, when you sing, the spit travels. So as long as, you know, they were saying,
well, that's honestly one of the reasons I feel it would be difficult to like do a production in a contained space like SPAC or the Gateway or the Argyle. Like there's only so much spacing you can do, but there's still a way for, you know, spittoon and such and such to travel.
Well, there's nowhere for it to go. It's just getting circulated through the vents. You know, even if they have a HEPA filter, it's not like they're HEPA filtering somebody's spit as it comes out 5 seconds later when the filter's on the other side of the room. You know, they've been talking about how they might be redesigning Broadway theaters next season, and they're like, well, maybe we it's like a fish tank, and you just put a big glass shield in front of the stage and you keep it the same. It's a possibility.
But the unfortunate thing then becomes tickets are obviously going to be upsold. Tickets are going to have to start making revenue. Theaters are going to have to start making their revenue in other ways. And there's only so high a price point you can put for tickets before people are just like, I'll pass.
Yeah, you know, it comes with like, you know, inflation's been happening for the past years, and ticket prices on Broadway have been going up, and the student rush is only available to so many types of people.
That's right.
You know, and your audiences stay the same, which is, you know, the cycle of everything. But you're gonna find, you know, the average paying ticket on Broadway is $135 right now. On average, what people actually will pay for. You know, you have the people who want to get third row seats on the day of, and they get the American Express premium.
Of course, you're gonna have the gold star ticket. I mean, the gold card ticket holders, of course. That's with anything.
Exactly, but you could buy those tickets, you know, 2-3 months in advance for $200 less. But it's those people who will do that in demand.
Of course.
So you look at that situation, but, you know, when that goes up to $179 when we come back, you know, you're essentially paying $3 a minute for your performance. Is that something that you're willing to do, and who are you willing to do that for? Which then becomes more star driven, and then you know, gets rid of opportunities for actors who are just looking to be actors, and it's a hard, vicious cycle.
It's one of the reasons why I'm not fearful of theater, because theater is literally everywhere. Theater is live. This right here is theater.
Yeah, it's practically liveness.
There are ways to go about it that don't exclusively revolve around being on Broadway. It's just a question of the amount of work that is going to have to eventually be put into it, and how much a person is willing to do to make live theater a thing.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's part of recreating how you articulate your story. You know, I'm thinking about my my girlfriend's former university is SUNY Fredonia, and so they kept their main stage this season. They were doing the Scottish play by Shakespeare, and you know, that show takes place in the middle of a war, in the middle of, you know, tumultuous times with a possible plague coming on, and they said, well, we're going to keep the set. We're going to change the design a little bit for camera angles. We're going to do it masked, and we're going to make it part of the way that we articulate costume. You know, that is like part of how you do it, and they filmed it and they streamed it. There are people who are doing that.
I mean, they're doing the same thing with Theater 3 and A Christmas Carol. I mean, I'm not
Yeah,
Theater
they
3,
did their Christmas Carol, and they have their offstage online.
Yeah.
I just directed last week Locust Valley High School's production all on Zoom. I did that. I did Puffs, which is the mock on the Harry Potter.
The mock on Harry Potter, yes.
As if it was a virtual magic school. Mm-hmm. It's how you articulate it. I did that. And then I did a workshop of a musical by Alyssa Williams and Matt DiMaria last month, and that was just we put up legit barriers between the people. We just section them off. And they were able to
the one thing that is constant about theater is that there's always going to be a way to create it.
Yeah.
You can't stop a speeding train, and theater is very much a speeding train. You can't stop it. I mean,
Shakespeare wrote King Lear in the middle of the plague. He just sat in his room and wrote King Lear. It's how it goes. So I mean, right now I'm in tech this week for the next show I'm doing. I don't know if you had seen anything about it.
No, I can't say that.
So it's a new musical that I've been devising with 5 of my friends. Mm-hmm. Billy Reese, who did the musical about Star Wars. Yeah. He's from Pop Hog. Brilliant parody songwriter. Mike Points, who I went to Marist with, who went to Muhlenberg, and he's a UCB comedian. He's fabulous. Jeremy Gervitz, who's a friend of mine through a quarantine play reading group that I was part of. He's a Maryland alum, and he's just a sketch comedy writer. And Kenny Doyle, who is a well-known local actor. He's a drummer as well. And Matt Healy. The Matt Healy's the best. Matt Healy. I've worked with Matt Healy. Matt Healy was in that first show I directed, that production.
Yeah. What a delicious talent Matt Healy is.
He's really suave. You really, really want to watch him. So I said to myself, one of the big questions that I was asking with this moment that we're in the pandemic, which is, why do we keep telling stories the way that we've been telling them for years? And what are the actual connotations behind the way in which they were told to us? What do they mask and what do they reveal?
Yeah.
So I wanted to take a well-known Christmas story and I wanted to tell it for face value. Just, almost like you bring in that outside character. It's a big thing in sitcoms. You're like the person who's new to the world. You have an outsider come in who's never really heard the story before, and they help tell the story. So right now, the working title of the devise process is the 56th annual Jingle Christmas Rudolph special.
That was you have that as your banner on Facebook. I saw that, and I was just like, well, this looks nifty.
Yeah, it's really cool. So we wrote the musical in 3 weeks, and it's essentially a story where it's this year, and of course Santa is older and he is high risk, so he is vacationing in New Zealand where it is safe with the rest of the elves who have filled their quota for this year, and there are a couple of them who are left. And they have to tell the story of the last time that Christmas almost didn't happen, which was the Great Storm with Rudolph. And they treat Rudolph as if he is their deity. They literally bring out, in the first moments of the show, they bring out an urn with antlers and a red nose on it. It's Rudolph's ashes that they pray to at the top of the show.
That's funny.
Yeah, no, it's so... And they're commissioned to live stream from the North Pole the story of Rudolph. It's kind of like, how you have the people do the passion at their church. So we'll be filming this next Monday. We have tech on Thursday. Next Monday at Nagel's Barn, which is on the Halleckville Museum Farm in Riverhead. So it's a really big historical barn built in 1936, and we're turning it into the North Pole. And they're live streaming it. Ed Huther from It Unleashed, who's the best, is going to be doing a live cut of it for us, a 3-cam shoot. And we wrote 7 songs, and we tell the story. And we have puppets that tell the story of Rudolph, and they come in and out as elves to be like, this is what it is. And Austin Costello made the puppets. He's the resident puppet designer for the Long Island Children's Museum. He was a Sesame Street guy.
Yep.
He's making us these flat puppets that are like made of foam core and felt, and they feel very South Park. It's very two-dimensional.
I was going to say, it sounds very South Park.
So that's the story. You know, Yukon Cornelius is the guy who could sell anybody anything. You know, he floors the Abominable Snowman with his low prices. Hermie is the person who we blame for everything going wrong because he has a Tootsie Roll addiction and he just wants to steal people's teeth. And if you do anything wrong inside this toy shop, you'll become a dentist like Hermie. So there's
this
that.
Sounds absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, it's great. And, you know, Rudolph is like very clearly an allegory for queerness, in otherness. And
every shape of the word.
But what's so great about it is because it isn't like a, you know, it's not a Born This Way story. It's we're going to exploit you when we need you story. It's like when people call up their friend who does drag when they have a question about RuPaul, and that's the only time they ask how they are.
That's right.
You know? Like it's like shit like that. You know, you're not gonna Venmo somebody when they're reading tarot cards. You're gonna but you're gonna talk all you want about Bob the Drag Queen. You know, it's like shit like that. I mean, yeah. You know much better than me. So it's sort of an allegory for that. And then halfway through the stream, as they're doing the finale, they knock their urn over and it breaks and it shatters and all the ashes blow away.
Naturally.
Of course, Chekhov's gun. And then it goes to the story of, well, we're screwed. What are we going to do now? There's no way. They're like, all I know is being an elf my entire life. You know, what do I do? They were all preparing with the train preparation division for the spring production of Starlight Express, and they don't know what to do. And now they're going to like go on with their lives, and you know, are they going to run away? What are they going to do with their lives? It's sort of like, you know, my commentary on theater right now. Yeah. It's like, oh, you've known it's theater your whole life. When you can't do theater the way you know it anymore, what do you do?
It's true.
You know, I'm only good at putting wheels on toy trains. I'm only good at putting propellers on planes. What do I do now when there's no need for that? You know, and that's sort of the questions that we're asking. And it's been really fun.
It seems a very poignant, appropriate, breath of fresh air almost. In terms of theater. And you know, as I mentioned earlier in the show, some of the greatest stories ever told were told during pandemics, whether it was the Great Depression or the market crashing or 9/11 or any other type of disaster. Some of the greatest stories have ever been told. And I'm very excited to see what comes out of people's creativity, of people's know-how when it comes to any of these things. One of the things that I've noticed is a lot of online production companies have been in development lately.
Yeah.
Whether it's groups of actors, groups of sound designers. I'm actually a part of two online production companies. And they're predominantly for podcasting, and they're predominantly for putting on shows vocally rather than physically. And it's just been so fascinating. It's been so fascinating to sort of take this sort of nosedive into live theater, whether it's a one and done podcast or a weekly show or what have you. There's just so many things that are being done now that either couldn't be done or people were afraid to do it. And you know, I feel like this whole pandemic has really sort of inspired people to make things work, regardless of the outcome. Just make it work. Just do something creative and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's really based on the tools that you're given. You know, for years and years and years, it was about, you know, getting the butts in the seats right in front of you. And when you're not able to do that, you know, the buck still stops at you. How do you meet the line? I think that podcasts have blown up immensely in audio
They
plays
have.
because that's something that you really can do remotely and without like Ethernet cables linked up to everything, that you could have everybody in time and you
I
could.
mean, if it wasn't for the fact that we had internet and Wi-Fi, I don't think that we, as a people, as a public, would really be able to handle much of anything because we've gotten so accustomed to it.
Oh my gosh, right now, especially right now. I mean,
Yeah.
I really, the greatest thing is that, I've been able to consume so much media because of it. It's and I always tell this story to people, which is the hard thing with the arts right now, that we really haven't gotten any sort of bill passed through Congress about us. Which is, they're like, well, the arts aren't essential right now. And people are like, well, arts are essential. It's like good for the heart. And I was like, but there's more to that.
There's much more to the arts than just
It's
what
hard.
people initially imagine.
Yeah, and it's even more than like the second layer that they're like, but it's like human expression. And I was like, no, no, no. Like, if I'm a nurse and I work an 18-hour shift at the hospital, and then I come home and I sit down and I stop at Wendy's because that's all I have time to do before I pass out. I open up my chicken nuggets and I sit down on the couch, and what do? I go and I watch this new show on Hulu that's made by artists.
Yeah.
It is the artists that heal the bodies of the people who heal the physical bodies. We heal the hearts and the minds of the people who heal the bodies so that they have a reason to show up the next day. If there was no art being made, then why are we saving people?
It's true.
That's the big thing that I keep thinking about to myself. Which is why I can't stop.
The fact that the arts bring joy, the fact that the performative brings people joy and brings people a certain type of happiness that they wouldn't be able to get otherwise, is tantamount.
Yeah.
Is tantamount to what's going on right now. You sort of need that. You need that specific level of joy and that specific level of quality to say, all right, I got my laugh, I got my happiness, I got my so on and so forth. Let's do it to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the fact that there hasn't been anything exclusively done, nothing's been done in the union, hardly anything has been done locally. You ask a congressperson or a politician, what about the arts? What about the artists? Oh, well, they're not important. I beg to differ, and I could think of a million other people who feel the same way.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating that you're seeing gyms open and not theaters open. Like that.
I had a conversation with one of the mothers that I worked with when I did stage managing, and she said it was the same sentiment. Why are schools still out? Why are schools opening? Why are gyms opening? Why are all of these things opening, but theaters are remaining tightly shut?
Yeah, and it's not even like the way that, I know schools very well. It's not even like the way that schools are being run is in an ideal way right now, that it's like we can't do that in a theater. My mother's a public school teacher in Massapequa, and I don't know if you know this, but my main hustle for cash right now is I'm a TA.
Yeah.
I'm
actually just saw, congratulations on me. You became one. I think this year you became one.
Yeah. So, I was looking for a job this year, and I'm a TA for a first grade class at a private school in the city. So it's in Columbus Circle, right across the street from the park.
Right across. Okay. Yeah.
So it's great. Half of our school day is spent in the park. Even on like colder days, we do lunch, we'll do PE out there, and we'll do a lesson out there.
Yeah.
Or we'll do it on the roof. There's the playgrounds on the roof of the building. I promise there's high fences. But
no, people are going to get on the swings and then jump off the building.
But, the way that we're doing, of course, it's a high tuition based school.
Of course.
But, I have to tell you, like Mike Bloomberg's grandson is in my class. Like those are the type of people that we have going on here.
I would expect nothing. It's Columbus Circle, darling. I'm not the least bit surprised.
Yeah, but what is nice about it is, when you have the funding behind it, you are able to make a safe space, I guess is my sentiment. We have 14 kids, and we have one lead teacher and 3 TAs in our class, split between 2 classrooms where the teachers travel. and the kids in the other halves of the class literally only see each other outside, masked the entire day. We are testing, COVID testing in the classrooms every week. Like, you don't see that in public schools. So why can't you? But people are, there are districts that are like, we have 15% positive cases in our school, but we're going to keep the school open, but just have their contact tracing put out. But yet, if you can run a theater and open it and have people masked, distanced for a very short amount of time come in, and you're holding them to even higher standards than the kids you have walking through the school who are not being held to a standard of keeping their masks on the entire time, that are literally going
I'm going to say something a little risque.
Live your truth.
But I feel as though there are certain directors on not specifically on Long Island, but there are certain directors, certain producers who couldn't or wouldn't be able to afford the luxury to say, I'm going to test all of my actors. I'm going to test all of my staff. I'm going to do all of this testing, all of this hullabaloo and hee-haw. I just don't think there's going to be enough people that will pony up the dough for that.
Well, I'll tell you this. To get tested for COVID is free in the United States right now.
Yeah.
It's not like, where we were at our school, they were paying a large sum of money to have people administer 24-hour PCRs in the classroom. If when I directed The Wildness, I was having everybody get tested. Yeah. They would just go to their doctor, they go to their urgent care, and they'd email me that they got it done. Mm-hmm. Really, it's the effort of it's a change. And really where it comes to being able or not being able to do it is not even the liability. Anytime that you're doing a show that you sign a contract, locally, level of liability. You always sign your rights away anyways. You're always signing your rights away.
Yeah.
But the thing is at what percentage capacity in my theater can I still operate to pay these actors, to pay these designers, to pay the much higher electricity bill to turn my theatricals on?
Yeah.
Most theaters have to operate locally on the island. Most of them, most bigger size community theaters are non-for-profits turning about $900,000 a year, right?
Yeah.
So to turn your $900,000 a year, your main stage program is about 50% of that. Is about 50%, including the concessions, including all the things, door to door.
That's including all forms of revenue.
And then the rest are donations and classes and events and giving program, stuff like that.
Of course.
So, you need to have at least, to my understanding, about 65% of your capacity met for the price of the ticket that's met for these places. If you're not functioning at that, because even most of community theaters per se, most of those followings are friends and family, right?
Yes.
And if I'm a friend or a family member and I know somebody who's doing a show in this moment, I'm going to go and see it once. I'm not going to keep going back for the risk. I had the experience. The people who keep keep the
lights on.
The people who keep the lights on are the young people's parents and families nowadays on the theater level because of the type of programming that they do.
Of course.
Because of the type of programming that they do. So it's, that's also a part of it. It doesn't pay, to license a big musical where you're paying X amount of dollars weekly for royalties when you're not even making that money back. Yeah, it's nice to do a show, but it's not nice to not pay your rent.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. So, you find other ways to make that happen. Even with volunteer work, there is just the price of turning things around, which is hard. You cannot get around designer fees.
No.
The big thing you can't get around is your electric bill. So it's like, well, how do you do that? Well, how did theater start? Amphitheaters, fire, stores. When Dr. Fauci was first interviewed about making theater in COVID, you're like, well, you have all these guidelines. Well, what can you do?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing he said is, well, for now, he's like, people should be doing one-man shows. People should be. I don't see why not everyone's doing solo work right now. I mean, one of my probably my favorite performance artist is the comedian Chris Fleming. If you know Chris Fleming, people know him as Gail, the mother. Company's Coming.
Mhm.
But what was so nice was he just did his solo show. He's toured before. He's done toured, and he does a multimedia comedy show. And so what he did was it was called Forest Musings, and he just built a forest in his basement. And he sat there and he built his tracks and he did his things and he just does it on his iPhone and he recorded it and then streamed it. And that was the thing. And you did it there and you made the environment and you had, the idea of solitude and musing on what's happened was the framing tool that made sense to not have a live audience. How do you do it? So many people, you could do a show about loneliness where you're just stuck on a space shuttle and nobody's getting back to you. That would be why would you want to do that with a 500-person audience? I mean,
it's one of the reasons why there are a growing number of writers writing one acts. It was even why we were having writers write one acts beforehand. It's a specific level of convenience. It's telling a specific story. And, in my opinion, most art is valid. It's interesting to see. we can agree to disagree on that one if you're comfortable. But I do feel that there's always this specific level of there are these specific levels that need to sort of be met. But I tell you, it is so wonderful to seeing so many people continuing to be creative and continuing to sort of like make things work for themselves, present company included. Yeah. I think you've been doing a marvelous job creating theater and sort of doing the thing while all of this has been going on, and I commend you for that.
I am just trying to feed my soul. That's all I can say about it. I'm just trying to feed my soul. I'm just trying to make work, and I'm just trying to have a conversation.
Yeah.
I just want to have a conversation with my audience. My big thing is I'm trying to plan out my next 6 months. So, once I'm done, I talked with Carly, I talked with my girlfriend about it. I was like, I am taking a month-long break where I'm not doing anything. I'm not writing anything. I'm not doing anything. So a week from on Monday, after Monday, I'm going to chill. I'm going to take a month off. And then I'm looking to start, I want to start 2 new pieces, Yeah. I'm like devising has been my big thing lately. I don't know how familiar you are with devise process, but it's, you collect a certain group of people in a room together and you say, these are the people, collaborators who I want to tell a story that is about this, where are strengths, who likes writing, who wants to write some music, who wants to put together, who makes this, so that's
it's a melting pot, basically.
It's
of different creatives, a melting pot of different creatives. You'll have your writers, you'll have your writers, your sound designers, your lighting designers, your actors, your just a group,
and they all participate from the beginning.
Yep,
which is cool. So I'm looking to devise another piece because I mean the Jingle Christmas show I think has been a massive success. Really one of my favorite things I've ever done. So I mean the next thing I want to work on, and I know it's kind of crazy to like say, like when people are like, I want to tell a story about this, and then you're like, what? The next thing I want to work on is I wanna devise a show about NASCAR. I don't know if you know this, how familiar you are with the type of people who watch NASCAR.
I think I'm not. I don't want to say I'm well versed, but I'm familiar.
You're a larger demographic, and I never want to generalize. But if I don't know how familiar you are with them the past couple months, but they were the first sports organization in the world to say Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Yet they also had to condemn in that same week the Confederate flag from being used in NASCAR, whereas multiple riders were protesting and left the league. There are people who revolt that say they'll never watch again, who watched for 30 years. You know, I think that the idea of like what would a pit crew
organization doesn't dictate the will of its viewers.
Yeah, but it's so strange because it's usually the other way around.
Yeah.
That's what, like, that's so exciting to me. It's like, what is like a general office drama of like the higher ups of NASCAR look like? Or like, what does a pit crew for the guy who just left because he was, you know, he was the guy sponsored by Chick-fil-A? You know, what does that, what do those people talk about? What does that story look like? So, I mean, that's my next process I'm looking at. I have not even thought about where I'm starting or what I'm doing, but that's the next story I'm in the mood to tell. So
I mean, it's definitely an interesting one. And I feel like I say, I feel like you are a very young, a very intelligent, a very astute talent.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I am very proud to know you, Tommy. I'm very grateful and very proud to know you.
Thanks, Tom. You know, I just like to like chill with people who make me feel good and are nice, and that's what you do. You know,
I sincerely hope so.
Yeah, no, like literally, and you know, likewise, you were doing the work as well. You're making art right now, and this is, what is this, episode 14?
I think this is episode 14.
This is episode, an even number, which is great. And you know, you're making art with people, and you're sharing stories, and that's what I see you doing top to bottom. I mean, I have to tell you, Maud Live was a romp. You know?
I'm so glad you thought so.
Yeah,
I was honestly very. I mean, I don't like tooting my own horn too much, but I was very proud of Maud Live.
You know, you're
telling those stories.
When you gave people a job.
I did.
That's the big thing, is that like you're giving people opportunities.
If I tell you, Tommy, nothing filled me with a bigger sense of pride than saying I was able to pay my actors. I was able to give it might not have been much, but I was able to give them some type of compensation for the work that they've done for me.
That they wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
And I am so grateful and so honored that I was able to do that.
Yeah. That's fabulous. I mean, it just goes to show, you know, the sentiment I feel like of this conversation is art isn't just essential, but art is the thing that fuels what heals.
Yep.
And that is so great, because that is compensated in the same way that your ER bill should be compensated.
Oh, I have opinions on the healthcare system of this country.
Yep. We're on the same page here, my friend.
I have many opinions on the healthcare system, but I don't. Oh, that is a rabbit hole I dare not go near.
That's another episode. You know,
that is another episode.
That's another episode with the healthcare worker.
More than to have you back on for another time.
Yeah,
I would love nothing more. I've been enjoying listening to you. I mean, even when we were working together, I always enjoyed listening to you, because you're so passionate. You're so passionate, and that's something that I absolutely treasure about you, is that you are a passionate talent.
Thanks, Tom. You know, if you're not passionate about something, then why are you doing it?
Why are you doing it?
You know?
It's true.
Why are you doing it? Why are you doing it with your life if you don't give a shit about it, you know?
It is very, very true. Yeah. I have tickled and delighted in all that you've done and all that you continue to do. You're a very special person. You really are.
Thank you so much.
I continue to pronounce the sentiment. You are a very special person. You are talented, and I am grateful and proud to know you.
Thank you so much.
I don't want to end just yet, but we are about like 5, 6, 7 minutes away.
Sure.
Is there anything else that you want to talk about? Is there anything else that you would like to just chat about? It could be nonsense. It could be absolute
nonsense. Okay. Nonsense. So something that I've been getting back into since the beginning of the pandemic is I've been getting back into snacking. Because I think that that's a good thing for you, is that, you know, you eat a healthy lifestyle, but have your snack that you fuel into. So once a month, I found on Amazon I found that you could buy a 48 box of Gushers for $4. So I've been eating a lot of Gushers, but I only do it once a month because I don't want to rot my teeth out. But I just finished my box of the month last night, and it's sitting next to.
I was also going to say that, if I'm not mistaken, there are literally boxes of. I forget what company does it, but there is a company out, of course, Fruit Gushers, the name of my next musical.
That's all good.
I think that would be brilliant. But Fruit Gushers, a musical by Tom Catt. It'll just be a bunch of drag queens screaming at you. But there's, if I'm not mistaken, there is a company that does monthly boxes of snacks.
Yeah.
And I find that fascinating.
Yeah,
I find that so incredibly fascinating. Cassie says hi, by the way.
Hi, Cassie.
I do miss her. I really do. I miss everybody in the theater. I really do.
Too.
It's definitely been an interesting couple of months during this whole situation.
I mean, not seeing people, like not being able to like feel like hold somebody's face in your hands.
Yeah.
When you're able to see people, you can't hold somebody's face in your hands anymore. You're like, you know, for me, part of the liveness is contact, is skin on skin.
Yeah.
You're like, well, what now?
What do I do now?
So
what do I do now?
That's crazy. Other crazy things. I'm like just like looking around to be like, well, what else have I been doing to stay alive? I've been really into candles.
Okay, nothing wrong with being into candles.
I found that woodwick candles are so much more fun because they crackle. There's a company called the Magic Candle Company that I've been ordering from, subscription based, which are Disney scented candles. Mm-hmm. So right next to my bed right now, I have a Dole Whip scented candle.
Oh, that must smell divine.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. And then I have another one that's based on the Avatar ride.
Of course.
And then my other one right now is called the Gray Stuff, as in like the gray stuff.
As in the gray stuff from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah. So
does it smell like Oreos and Cool Whip?
It kind of does. It's like it does smell a little bit creme brulee-ish. It's very Oreo based. I know that's sort of what the base of the dish is, right?
I've made the dessert once in my life, and let me tell you, it was a religious experience.
It was really good.
Oh, it was so good. It was so good. Oh man, I used so much Cool Whip. I think I used 2 tubs, trough of Oreos. Oh, but it was so worth it. Oh, it was so worth it.
Yeah, I mean, snacks, man, snacks and something. You know, when you're not, well, really, the basis of the sentiment is that when you do not have sight and touch, when seeing other people, you have to find other ways to compensate the sensational experience of your 5 senses.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not seeing anybody, you know, I'm not going out to dinner with somebody. I'm not having, you know, the idea of sharing a meal, you know, and I'm going to sit in my bed and I'm going to eat Gushers. I'm going to smell my candle. You know, it's like little things like that. I can't touch. So, you know, I always keep bubble wrap in my room so I can just pop it.
Yep.
It's like the little things that you do to at least simulate that feeling so that you do not go insane.
Trust me, one thing I'm incredibly thankful for is that I have yards and yards and yards of fabric to at least keep me sort of occupied, because if I didn't have anything to make costumes with, I think I would have lost my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's literally nothing. I mean, I bought myself a new microphone. I started doing things with voiceover. I started like building up more with Maud Live and Catt Chatt and doing all of these things. But I missed, there were certain things that I missed. Like I missed tactile. And it's true. It's very true. I miss the touch of different fabrics. I miss feeling different fabrics, working with fabrics.
I mean, I'll never forget when you spent what must have been the entire summer of 2018 sequencing that Wicked Witch cape. I remember that was like the central, like
that was my central focus for that pretty much the entire 7 months of hand sequencing that outfit. And if I tell you, it still looks gorgeous on me.
It was worth it. It was worth it because it wasn't just the fact of wearing it afterwards, but it was the labor of
it's the winky pin that you get.
Yeah.
But we are at that time, my love. I have been so over the moon that you have joined me this evening. Please tell everyone where they can follow you, where they can find you.
Yeah.
And please, by all means, the floor is yours.
So my website just got remodeled over the past month, and it is launching live on Friday, which is TommyRanieri.com. That's TommyRanieri.com. That'll be live on Friday, with my design by Julie DeMarzo, who's been a great graphic designer of mine. I'm at Tommy Ranieri on Instagram. I'm on Facebook in the way that Tom Catt just tagged me. And you could always Venmo me at my name too.
I did spell that right. TommyRanieri.
Yeah, and then if you'd be so willing to do so, once on later in the week, I'm going to have the link for the free stream of the Jingle Christmas show.
I would love
on Wednesday night, Wednesday the 23rd at 8 p.m. Hear and get feedback from people, and it will be posted afterwards. But I'd love people to have the live experience of something before the holidays.
What was that musical called one more time?
It's the 56th annual Rudolph Jingle Christmas show ! I believe there's a Facebook event for that. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so that's my stuff right now, and we'll see what next year takes us.
I'm very excited to see what you come up with. I really am very excited for that.
Thank you, Tom.
If you would like to follow me, you can at that Tom Catt on all forms of social media. That is literally all I've been able to do. Is just continue to try and brand myself. If you want to follow this show, you can at that Tom Catt on Facebook. I have also been uploading old episodes to YouTube and been sending them to my guests, basically to say thank you so much for joining, and also for memories.
Of course, you got it. You got to archive.
Tommy, I love you so much. I cannot wait to have you on the show again.
Yeah,
guys, I will see you all next week. I love you all. Ciao meow for now, guys.
Bye. Ciao meow.